welcome back to See and Free Studio. This is Jennifer Alangyan, and this is where you come to talk about what makes you unique, special, and different. And today is a very special episode of the show, different than anything else we've ever done. We're going to talk to three different guests who I've come to know in the last few months, students at Loyola Marymount University. We've got Alexandra O'Hagan Padron. She's an MBA candidate at LMU and Senior Investment Associate at Keen Growth Capital. Evanne Drucker, an MBA candidate as well in Student Affairs and Facilities Management at the university. And Ryan Robles. He's a master's in entrepreneurship and sustainable innovation. It's the program I get to teach in. I love it. And Ryan works at a ghost kitchen, which he's going to have to explain to all of us, leading logistics, implementation, and sales. Welcome, everyone. I'm so glad you're here on the show today.
Hi, Jen.
Awesome.
Hello.
Hi, thanks for having us.
Yes. Well, today's a special episode, and you all agreed to join me today. We want to talk about, what makes you unique, special, and different, and how that guides you through such a critical point in your life when you're thinking about your careers. And all of you have shared a little bit about your journeys with me in the last few months together, and I want you to be able to share that with everyone else. For all of you job seekers out there, all of you kind of going through life transitions, big milestones in your life, and kind of thinking about how what makes you unique, special, and different guides some of these decisions. All of us today are going to talk about that, what it's been like going through some of that journey and self-reflection, and maybe share some tips for how to seek career opportunities and get your proverbial foot in the door. So we're going to share some tips as well. So first, let's start with you, Evan. Tell everyone a little bit about yourself and what you're up to these days.
Yeah. So Jen, like you mentioned, I work at the university here at Loyola Marymount. I oversee the on-campus bar, which is a craft beer and wine facility, which is unlike anything I've ever done before. I manage a team of about 15 students and then 10 professional staff members. And every day is different. I also have a background in television production and realized very quickly that was not the route for me. So I'm kind of enjoying this different journey, getting the MBA and seeing what else is out there. On a personal level, I'm about to get married. So I'm having just all sorts of transitions in my life, good and scary and exciting. And here we are.
Yes, well, that's wonderful. And had I known that you run the bar on campus, you're probably like the most popular person there, Evan. You should just relish in that for a little bit longer. That's amazing.
That's why Alex is here.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's great. Well, Alex, tell us what you're up to, where you're at these days, and a little bit about you.
Right. So I work for a venture capital firm called Keen Growth Capital, and I really love aspects of what I do where I work with different entrepreneurs every day and get to investigate different industries and become kind of a mini expert on all the different products. We do food and beverage, and I've just had this great opportunity to be a part of the LMU MBA program. So I've been furthering my learning and doing a lot of introspection about who I am as a leader and what are my strengths and, what are my USDs.
Yes, wonderful. And you're going to get to share that in a little bit. I'm excited about that. How about you, Ryan? What are you up to these days?
These days, I'm running a ghost kitchen. I'm developing a TV series. I'm trying to create events to bring some artists out and showcase their work. So right now, and going to grad school. So I'm really excited because it's a very introspective moment, as Alex said. And now I get to really just understand my leadership and see how I show up for people and discover what's coming up for me.
That's great. And you are extremely busy. I know that from getting to know you. You talked about you're exploring your USD, and that's the whole point of this show, something that I wanted to highlight for people, especially when you're going through transitions and you're kind of trying to figure everything out and make an impact in the world, which all three of you are trying to do these days. Some people feel a little bit lost, they kind of lose sight of of what drives them, their purpose, that thing that it keeps them going on their toughest days. And that's why I created this concept of a USD. So you guys have had a little bit of an opportunity to explore this in my class. I would love for you to each share your USD and how you discovered it and what's this process been like for you. This time we'll start with Ryan.
Awesome. So my USD that I've kind of discovered is I'm an authentic soul searcher. So what that looks like is I really like to put myself into new places, understand what's going on, and unlock that for other people as well. Because with my leadership, I've realized that I want to give them the tools that they need and direct them to allow their power to show. And with my past careers, I realized that you're always going to be evolving. Things are going to change, and you're going to be a new person every year. And right now with COVID and kind of pivoting, we'll say, has really kind of shown up like, okay, what is going to be the next steps? What direction do I want to go, and how do I want to navigate this new world?
So when you say authentic soul searcher, does that mean for you personally kind of to keep revisiting that? Because like you talked about, you're constantly having to reinvent or reimagine yourself in these different contexts. Is it about that for you, or is it also about bringing that to other people?
It's really about, that's a good question. It is about myself, because when I put myself into a new project, I realize I emulate what is going to be. I've been in sustainability projects. I've been on sets. I've had multiple hats, in which we all do. And it's really, when it's about me, I want to lead and understand where I'm at in order to bring that to others. And I want others within my group to grow themselves and understand that they're more than capable of leading.
That's great. That's wonderful. Well, thank you for sharing that. Alex, how about you? What have you learned about your unique, special, and different?
Right. So my USD is that you can rely on me to tackle any problem with tenacity and ingenuity. It's been really interesting to just try to get something that simple down, because there's so much you could say about yourself, and to come something so simple and that's so pure to who you are, and it's supposed to be within the work environment, and without it, it's really hard just to distill that. And I think along this journey, I had to really force myself to make the time to consider this very important, to kind of go on this self-awareness journey and just give myself lots of quiet time to think and to distill and to just really carefully pick my words and find what excites me and what speaks to me as an individual.
So somebody that tackles things with tenacity, how hard was that really for you to take that time for you and that self-reflection, right? Because you're going after stuff all the time. So how hard has it been?
It's hard because I feel like we just in society put a lot of pressure, especially in this phases of a lot of our careers. This is your building time. This is when you have to go after and just work your ass off. And it is so hard to just give yourself time to focus on you and make sure that that's just the same priority, and then focus on that with tenacity. I mean, once I kind of gave myself the permission to really value this, then I went after it with tenacity, and I didn't stop until I, had a whole document with ideas and pulling from different readings and different frameworks until I, came up with this idea.
That's great. Well, thank you, Alex, and thank you for being vulnerable and sharing that, right? That, that it takes a shift even and to catch yourself and make the time to do that for yourself. And Evan, how about you?
Yeah, I similar to Alex, I kind of struggled with this, finding like that one saying that really was going to hit home. And what I've kind of realized is I'm always going to be that person who validates and celebrates every aspect of the individual. And when I say that, I think about we encounter these people in our lives in different compartments. Like maybe you know them from work and maybe you know them from school or wherever it may be. And there's always so much more to the individual. And I think that's really what I want to get to the core of, is like, who are you as a person and how can I validate you? How can I celebrate you past the work that I'm expecting you to do or past the team that we're competing on? And that's where I've kind of fallen with my USD.
That's great. And Evan, how do you do that for yourself? I mean, when you have to look inward, are you able to celebrate those aspects of yourself, or is it mostly others focused?
I think it is definitely a work in progress, Jen. I am an Enneagram 2, if that means anything to people. Like, I am that helper. I'm like, put everyone ahead of me. And I've learned as I've gotten older to ask for help or to take time. And I think I'm starting to, especially in the course of this class, to realize that like the importance of recognizing it in myself too, because I'm an individual as well. And I have those same, characteristics or needs or whatever you want to call them that deserve that validation as well. So it's a work in progress.
Yes. Well, listen, your USDs and self-reflection are constant work in progress. So 100%. I'm going to ask each of you, a slightly different question, but I'm going to start with you, Alex. Now that you have taken the time to whittle down this slogan for yourself, this mantra to keep you going, what do you think you're leveraging day to day in your current job and career choice, and what's missing for you?
Well, I think now that I've had the opportunity to think through all of this, my self-confidence is really built. So, within what I do and what I have to offer, I'm like, yeah, no, it's not just the components of my job anymore. It is who I am. Like, I have so much faith in myself that I can tackle any problem. I'm always super hardworking. And I think now I just understood that after the self-reflection and can take that into all parts of my work and my life. And I'm also finding a lot of self-reflection tells me what I find frustrating in my current position and what I dream of for the future. So I think all of this kind of wraps in, and it gives me so much more clarity going forward of what I want for myself.
Yeah, I mean, is there a moment where you question, if you're going to put all of that tenacity and ingenuity into something, it has to be the right something? I mean, how has that shaped your perspective on your career and what you're looking for?
Yeah, it made me think. I was through doing all these exercises, I kept coming back to, I want to know I'm having an impact, and an impact that's larger than myself and larger than a bottom line profit, and knowing that I'm doing something that is helping people or the planet. I have a background in sustainable development. That's what I studied in my undergrad, and I've definitely veered away from it a little bit. And now that I've been exploring my values enough, I know that has to be my next step. The next thing I do needs to combine that within my work, because I need to bring passion back. If I'm going to work so hard, I need to know that it's going to fulfill me more than my current role.
Yeah, that's great. That's such a big awareness, and just you're putting it perfectly in how you're reflecting on the USD needs to be present everywhere. But when you're going to put that much energy towards something, you want to make sure that it yields something as a result, bigger than you, and that you're kind of making an exponential impact beyond the day-to-day. And so, wonderful. Listen, I'm excited for you, because I know that this has been quite the journey of self-exploration. So I think you're making big strides in doing that. I'll ask you now, Ryan, for you, as you talk about authentic soul searching, what kind of soul searching have you been doing lately? What's something that you've had to really dig into to find that authenticity for yourself?
Yeah, and looking at what my core was going to be, it was kind of like understanding how I'm showing up and how I'm going to be. So with that, I'm really using the medium of film as a way to kind of develop people and develop a story. And with the authentic soul searching, it's really about the innovation, the creativity that I can bring as far as a leader. And looking back in roles that I've been in, positions, it's been exciting to kind of recognize how I show up and understand that I can change and bring that to people. So, yeah, the authentic searching has just been a fun process of like really evaluating what are the strong core beliefs and how I can grow it.
Yeah. One of the things you have opened up to me about and others is just your identity and like how you identify from an authentic place. And that's been something that you've kind of discovered over time. Will you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, I'll go deep in this one. So I've been in part of like many different circles, had many different, we'll say, not traumas, but challenges that have really developed me and have grown me and made me question, like, am I capable? Can I do this? Where are we going? And that's been the exciting part, is like, I get to rebuild and I get to constantly rebuild and understand like this is a humble beginning and this is where we get to grow and this is where we get to execute and we get to go. And there's like moments of this whole period where I'm developing all these new things, and it's exciting because I'm a part of new circles and being a part of these people that have been mentoring me and teaching me and kind of informing me, hey, Ryan, you have a story and you have great insight into organizations and into people that have been developing you. And I think in my leadership, I always question myself because I want to make sure that I'm presenting 100% to everyone. And we'll say a tape, that's constantly playing, but it's more because it's like I want my leadership to show and I want it to emulate, and people tell me that, and that's the exciting part.
Yeah, and I think just you working on building your confidence. If that's the tape, like for those of you who are not from this generation, tapes, those are old school tapes, right? It's a word that we still use. Some of us remember them. I don't know if any of you do. But if that's something that's constantly playing in your head, that's powerful. Just to feel like you need to be constantly showing up for people, for others, and in all these different places that you're showing up, whether it's making a film or it's working in the kitchen or being at school or family or whatever. And so I'm glad that you're kind of aware of that, and that's the self-talk that's going on, and that you're constantly sitting with that and exploring it. So thank you. Thanks for sharing that. Evan, I would love to hear from your perspective. Based on your USD, somebody that validates and celebrates every aspect of an individual, what's the best way, manifestation of that for you? Is there a role out there or an environment out there where you think your USD could really flourish?
Yes, I think there is. I think that right now we see this huge push for company culture, and it's this buzzword that nobody really knows how to actually manifest. I've worked at really great companies. I've worked at awful companies. I've worked anywhere in between. And I think when I look at my future, where I'm going to utilize this is going into that like people organization and understanding, why are people working? Yes, it's nice to have a paycheck, but it has to be something more. And even Alex already spoke to it. It's like, how do you make people feel that special connection to work, even if the work isn't saving lives or enter whatever you may validate or not validate. And I think the long term for me is to get into that. I want to consult, maybe 15 years down the line at some point, where if you're a business owner, and all of my classmates who have started their very successful businesses in their entrepreneurial worlds, that they realize maybe that culture is lacking, and I can come in and say, hey, let's refresh and let's find out what we can do to help validate your employees. And so many companies, I think, fall victim to this, like, well, we'll just, we can't give them more money, so it's not going to happen. And that's not what everybody wants. And I want to kind of shift that narrative in our country of people work for more than just a paycheck, and how do we celebrate that in the workplace?
Yeah, that's beautiful. And that's very true. I think we're seeing a lot of that. In fact, I think articles just came out today about why people are really leaving jobs. And it's not for any of the tangibles necessarily. It's a lot of the intangibles that they're not getting, not feeling connected to. Evan, for you, what are some of those things from a culture perspective you would like to be able to be a part of? Are there things when you think about the perfect place for you from a cultural perspective, what needs to be there for you to feel good?
Comfort. I mean, I think that it's just about feeling like you can be yourself, feeling like you can come to work and you can, on your good days and on your bad days, and that people are not going to treat you any differently. People are going to celebrate you. People are going to lift you up. People are going to, I think teamwork gets a bad rep because oftentimes you have members who maybe don't pull their weight or whatever, whatever visceral reaction you have to teamwork. But it can exist that we all work towards a common goal without actually being on the same team. And I think that's what I want to get to with a culture of a company is how do you encourage this mentality that like we're all here and we're all working towards one goal, and me being successful isn't going to take away from future successes that you could have or any sort of like things that you can achieve. And I think that this competition aspect of so many workplaces is really detrimental to making people feel like, well, if I'm not first, then why am I trying? Or if I'm first, I should hide it so I don't have a target on my back. How do we get back to that? People can come to work and be themselves and be celebrated for who they are, and not just for the work that they're doing, for the things that they're accomplishing outside of work, for the relationships that they have, or for maybe the struggles that they're having, so that you can support them throughout all of it.
Yeah, that's great. And we've talked a little bit as a group about what young people and people at different stages of life, and in this case where all of you are merging out of your graduate programs, what do you think your group of fellow students and peers out there are really looking for when they're thinking about going out into the job market and kind of finding organizations or cultures that may be a good fit for them? I know we talked a little bit about this recently in relationship to companies and organizations. Mm-hmm. But any of you that want to answer, what do you think people are looking for?
I'll go first. So, I mean, we've seen a shift even in how we purchase things. Is a shout out to Simon Sinek's Golden Circle. We look for the why in everything. It's like, it's not just enough that it's a job that pays us or that it's a product that does X, Y, Z. I think our generation and just the society as a whole is looking for more than that. So it's that we can be taken care of and we have security in our job, but that also it's to what Evan spoke of, that we can be our whole selves at our jobs, that we can build great relationships with the people we spend so much time with every single day, and that what we're doing has a purpose. It doesn't have to. Personal preference is that it does social or environmental good, but sometimes just a purpose of knowing you're doing the best of something, that you're being creative, that you're changing the world in some way. I mean, everyone has their own why, and it's just not enough to just be a job that's a paycheck anymore. I think we're all kind of striving for much more than that.
Yeah, that's great. We talk a lot about that in our class together, about having a clear why, not only for us as individuals and knowing what that why is, but also for those organizations that we're a part of, so that we know what their why is, right? There's not some mystic, purpose out there for those organizations, that it's really clear what it is and what they stand for. Ryan, what do you think? What do you think people are looking for as they're emerging into their careers?
Yeah, I think people are just looking for innovation and creativity. They're looking for something that they can have ownership for and that is doing good. We're moving into an era where everyone wants to be sustainable and have a product that does well and does good and has a mission. So I think everyone's more purpose-driven instead of that paycheck. Okay, well, I guess we'll knock that. Everyone is looking for the compensation, but it's like, how do you get compensated for doing something that is going to promote well? how are we going to do better in the world? How are we going to improve society, and how are we going to make some changes into the infrastructures that we already have? So I think people are looking for an impact.
Yeah, that's great. So, one of the things that we've talked a little bit about is what it feels like in this moment in time as you're trying to figure out how you're going to make an impact, where, how you're going to get through some milestones. Evan, you talked about getting married soon. You've got all these things kind of in front of you. Like, what are you worried about? What are some challenges that you're experiencing, and how are you feeling about it?
I can speak to that. I was like, I don't know if anyone else wants to go.
Everything.
I think obviously we spoke in class last night, right, about is the pain and the return going to outweigh our effort and our I'm blanking, the fears, right? All of our fears. And I think the biggest fear that is holding me back right now is I've been in my role for 3 years. I'm 6 weeks away from finishing a 2-year MBA program. And it's all been in my mind for this end goal. And now that end goal is here, what if the end isn't what I want it to be? Or what if I've fantasized too much, or I'm too excited, or I'm too caught up on what this should look like and how it's going to make me feel. And I think that piece is a little scary of, well, what if you get there and it's still not what you want? And I think to combat that, it's just reminding, nothing in this life is permanent, for better or worse. And that's something that you just have to still take the leap of faith for. But I definitely think that that's probably the number one fear that's holding at least me back right now.
Yeah. And we did talk about that. And, one of the things that one of our guests, and actually a former guest on my show, Orlando Ashford, talked about when asked, how he's navigated some of those opportunities. He said, well, I just tried them and realized that the worst thing, I guess, that could happen is that I have to go back to what I'm doing today, which is not so terrible, right? Like if that was truly the worst case scenario. I mean, do you think like you're getting comfortable with the idea of just taking the chance and seeing what's out there? Maybe it's not exactly what you visualize, but you'll get something from it.
I think at the end of the day, what you have to grapple with is like, even if you get there and it's not what you expected, you still got there. And that's still something to celebrate, and that's still something to be proud of. And so I think that is the number one step. It's like, because the alternative is to stay stagnant and then watch everything else or everybody else around you continue to progress. And maybe that's probably going to bring you so much more frustration or pain than if you got to somewhere and maybe it wasn't exactly what you wanted, but maybe it's not the final destination. It's just the next stop. And then the destination changes, and that's what keeps life exciting and something to look forward to. I think we fall victim to this, like, we have to make the right choice and it's permanent and it's going to be forever, and it's not. And it's not that deep. Like, we all want to make a difference, and we all will, and you just have to give yourself the grace to find the path, because if you knew exactly what it was, it would be boring.
Well said. I love it. And I love that you're sharing that wisdom with others, because I think a lot of people struggle with that same conundrum. And so thank you, Evan. I really appreciate that. Ryan, how about you? What are you worried about these days?
Oh man, that's a good one. What am I worried about these days? Everything. We're gonna be with the sustainability background, you kind of worry about the environment. But to go into the business side, it's just like, I don't want to wake up one day and think I didn't do what I wanted. I didn't achieve those goals. I didn't reach those marks. I didn't hit those milestones. And I feel like a lot of people feel that way because we're constantly put into that environment of like, achieve, grow, develop, hit competition. And that's what I worried about, is not hitting my dreams. And I think that's a personal one. But as far as like where we're going as a society, I worry about homelessness. I worry about the trash issue. I worry about the fact that we're losing coral reefs and we don't have the amount of carbon sequestration that we have. So I got a lot of worries on me.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I try not to take it on, because the main thing is I just want to be creative and drive some innovation.
Well, and do you feel, Ryan, some sort of, heavy burden to solve all of those problems, or is there something, that you're super passionate about that you think like this is the one impact I really want to make to kind of make a dent in all of those issues that are so important?
Yeah, I mean, right now it's really exploring what media can do. Media can send a message, and just like this platform, we're sharing this message, and it can create an impact. Being on the, we'll say media, sorry, through this channel, we're able to reach a wider audience and inform them about these decisions and make that change. So that is a passion of mine. And as far as the burden goes, it's mainly because knowledge. When you have the knowledge and you want to do something, you become a dreamer, or I'm a dreamer, and I'm letting go of the additional burdens and weights.
Yeah. Yep. That's great. Well, Alex, how about you? What's keeping you up at night, and especially as you do all this self-reflection?
I know. Nothing triggers insecurities and an existential crisis like a lot of good self-reflection. So I'll build off a little bit on what Ryan said, that even if people, I feel like, don't have the calling to maybe fix some of the problems he was saying, there's still just a sense of insecurity in our world that brings about, that I feel like a lot of people internalize. And then when you bring that on top of a time in our lives that, like, I think at our age, we're all in this time of intense change. Like you said, whether it's relationship, buying your first house, moving, making a career pivot, all of a sudden you're confronted with a bunch of change. And we talked about how that is very difficult for people. So I'm finding that I've struggled with the change, and it brings up a lot of fears. And an exercise that we did that's helped me a lot is just writing down all the fears, and then starting to just be self-aware of what is your list, and what are the things that are, for me, it's paralysis, that are just stopping me from taking the next step, and going through them and saying, is this based in anything? Am I just telling myself all this negative self-talk? And one of the biggest things I think that has stopped me from maybe making a change that now luckily I am ready to do is just self-doubt and self-confidence and fear of rejection. So thinking I'm going to go apply to a new job and nothing I've done will have been what they're looking for, which is kind of crazy to think, because I know, and logically I've done a lot of really great things and I'm very proud of, but it's just, I can't help it. You just start thinking there's nothing I've done is important and nobody's going to want to work with me.
Yeah.
But as soon as you say that and state it like that, you're like, no, that can't be true. So that's where I am right now, is working through all of those pieces.
Yeah, but that's such an important dialogue to have with yourself, right? One, to recognize it, to say, I'm telling myself this. I've got the fears. Two, I'm recognizing that I could go out in the world. One, I could either be paralyzed and not do anything. Two, I could go out into the world with that mentality of I could be rejected. Or you could say, really? Is that really true? I mean, and question that and really call yourself out a little bit so that you get over that barrier that you've created in your mind, right? And so that's such important self-awareness. And like you said, just writing stuff down can really help, and look at it on paper and go, this is ridiculous. I'm holding myself back.
And as painful as some of these exercises have been, I think now that I kind of have my USD, it does, like I said, it's given me self-confidence. It's helped combat it, my self-doubt, where if I'm like looking at a job description, I'm like, oh, well, I don't have these things. Well, you know what? I know exactly what I'm good at. And then I know, and part of what I'm good at is just figuring things out. Why do I couldn't do this position, or why they wouldn't want me? So I think put yourself through the struggle of doing this self-awareness exercise, because when you come out of the end of it, it will give you a lot more tools for combating fears.
Yes, that's great. Thank you, Alex. And, I know you guys have all been spending a lot of time talking about and thinking about leadership, your own leadership, and how you're going to go out into the world, and also just your career and how it will evolve over time. I wanted to take some time in this episode to share some tips for career seekers and like I said, people going through transitions where they're trying to figure out where they want to make their mark and impact. I thought I would share a couple of things and see what you think, and then I would love to hear some tips and tricks that you've been getting as you've been thinking about this era that you're in. So I think the first one I'll share, and then I want to hear one from one of you, is just knowing yourself, the importance of that, taking that time to self-reflect. A lot of people don't do that. They put their career in the context of the next job instead of what kind of life do I want? What do I know about myself and what's important to me? And start evaluating that, saying, this is the life that I want to be able to have, and then what career will equip me to live that best life and to be myself. We don't want to be at a point in life where we have to say, in order to get this job, I have to dress a certain way that it's not me. I have to act a certain way. I have to come with a certain credentials that really don't fit what matters to me. I tell people all the time, if you're going into a situation where you feel you have to change yourself that much and kind of what you stand for and what matters to you, it's probably not worth it. And it's not a place that you want to be. So that's one piece of advice I have. Does anybody have any experience with that, or have you gone through that kind of self-reflection yourself?
I would love to speak on that one. That was beautifully said. Like when you do have to change yourself and you have to be in a new environment, it doesn't make sense. And you hit it right there on the nail where you said, what type of life do you want? And with the self-reflection, how are you doing it? And what is it that you're looking for? And right now, through our course and through our program, that's exactly what I've been showing up as. And as I work with all these projects and I look back at what I've done in the past, it's like, we're short on time here. How do we want to live our life, and what is it that we want to do that's going to be fulfilling, that's going to provide that energy and give it and feed that fire within you? So that's kind of where I've been looking at and kind of transitioning and kind of seeing, how am I showing up and what roles have been fulfilling and what roles do I want to continue moving forward in?
That's great. That's wonderful. Thank you, Ryan. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I'll mention that exercise coupled with looking at the housing market in California, envisioning the life that I want. It actually gave me so much motivation to be a better self-advocate, because that's not my natural state, is to really, I don't know, I think you feel sometimes that you're bragging or you're being proud, and there's negative connotations around that. But no, being an advocate and saying like, no, this is where I envision myself. I want to be by my family in California, and to achieve that, I got to be more aggressive. I have to stick up for myself. And kind of with that in mind, I was able to go in and negotiate a significant raise because I valued myself with that much. And I knew that if I couldn't, it's almost like if I couldn't do it for me at this moment in time, then do it for my future. Envision where I want to be and for my future family, and give me the motivation I needed.
That's right. That's great, Alex. Thank you. And Evan, do you have any stories of how you've had to grapple with this?
I think what sticks out to me most is when we met with Rome, obviously last night in class, and he said something that just so was ingrained in my mind. And I think I've told myself it before, but to hear someone who's such a strong leader say it out loud, is like, you can train anybody to do anything. So don't hold yourself back from applying for that job, because you can walk in there and say, I will learn, you can train me. I can do anything that you ask of me. Hire me because I care about your company, and because I care about X, Y, and Z, and because I know that I would flourish here. And I think that to me is like that self-reflection of like, I know I've told myself before, if you can just get an interview, you can talk them into anything. But to hear it from such a strong and established leader was really like reminded me of that, to just go for it and to say like, take the chance and and learn. I mean, I'm running a bar right now. I had no idea how to run a bar when I took this job, and here we are 3.5 years later. And you can learn how to do anything. Mr. Google can be your best friend. And if you are applying for the right companies, they should invest in you as much as you want to invest in them. So that's kind of where I come to that table with.
That's wonderful. I love that. Well, yeah, and thank you. And talking about just making the connections to go and talk to companies and organizations that you're passionate about and want to work for. One of the things I get a lot of questions about, because I've done career coaching, 25 years now, in some form or fashion. And a lot of people come to me and say, will you read my resume? Will you read my cover letter? Should I apply for this job? And my answer is no to all of those things. And the reason is, those things, they might matter in some environments, right? Some very more conventional environments, but in a lot of ways, they really don't. And I tell people all the time, you're not there to get a foot in the door. You're there to get somebody to open the door for you. And so I'll give you an example for LinkedIn, for instance. LinkedIn, if you really want to get into a company that you're interested in, or an organization you're interested in, or a role, go look up your connections and the connections of your connections to find somebody that works there or that knows you well, that can get you an introduction. Do not waste your time applying for jobs or updating your resume. LinkedIn profiles, you can make those fun and cool and everything, but that's not what's going to get you the job. What's going to get you the job is the person that opened the door for you and you networked with and you made those connections. So that's the most important thing. Again, have any of you experienced this? Alex, I'll say, just in getting to know you, you're amazing at reaching out and networking with people. Any suggestions for our listeners?
Well, it's funny. I'm so happy you say that, because I actually feel like sometimes I feel like it's a weakness because I'm such not a natural networker. It's something I hate when it feels very transactional. Like, I'm going to meet you and you're going to give me something and I'm going to give you something, and then I just can't bring any sort of genuine emotion to it. But we had a speaker in class, Cassie Burr from VMG Partners, who mentioned if you come at it from just a more genuine place of like, I'm just super excited to get to know you and what you do, and that's just what the interaction. Like, I can do that. I can start talking to people from that place, and then all of a sudden, I'm the best networker in the world. It's just something about that mindset of changing, knowing what works for me and what makes me feel like I can just make this genuine connection, and that I'm good to go. And finding what works for me and breaking it down like that is really what was the key to my success in starting to reach out. And just, I think people love getting excited about what they do and seeing people genuinely want to know and talk to them about it. So I think if you just come from that place where you want to get to know the person, it makes it a lot simpler. You don't have to be worried about any expectations. And then that's how you build your network, and you know that you have people you can reach out to when the opportunity does come up.
Yeah, that's great. That curiosity and showing people that you're interested in them goes such a long way. So that's great advice. I think, if you're out seeking for different opportunities, just reaching out to people. I tend to take a lot of those requests. I just want to know who you are. I want to know what you do. And I think we need to do more of those. So thank you, Alex. That's great. Anybody else have some advice about how you've learned to network and make some connections?
I can speak to that. And I think I would start by saying run, don't walk, to sign up to take your class, Jen, because you have taught us more than anything about this, in that you bring all of these people to us. But I think what that has taught me is it's almost like a check your ego at the door in reverse of don't count yourself out of having that conversation, and don't talk yourself out of, oh, I'm not of a certain level, so I can't talk to those people, because every single executive that you've brought in to speak to us, and Alex and I have been fortunate enough to interview 2 of them, are just the most genuine and happy to help humans that we've ever spoken to. And so I think that it's reminding yourself that, like, don't count yourself out before you even try, has been a really big turning point for me. It's like, reach out to these people on LinkedIn, and they all respond to you, and they all ask how you're doing, and making that first connection is really important. But like, don't count yourself out before you've even tried to do it, is really where I come from in this journey, because I think that was what it was like, well, why would they want to talk to me? What do I have to offer? And it's not about what you have to offer, it's about how you can learn from them.
Yes. That's great. Thank you, Evan. And thanks for the vote of support on my first professor role. I appreciate that. Another piece here of advice, and I'd love, Ryan, for you to give your take on this, but I tell people a lot of times, if they're unhappy in their current jobs, to remind yourself you're not hostage, you're not a victim, you're not a martyr to an organization. They don't have control over you. You have control over you. And, an organization and a job can't take your power from you. Don't even let them take a crack at it. So, if you're giving it away, that's on you. And you've got to take a look in the mirror and say, what's going on here? What's at risk for me that I'm willing to kind of, martyr myself to this organization? And whatever that risk is really what you want to address. So Ryan, any wisdom that you would share with the group, or any experiences that you've gone through?
Yeah, in my previous role, I had a micromanager who would look at me, and I felt very hostile. It was a very hostile environment where I didn't feel comfortable going into work at times. And with that, I just began to reach out to my networks and started asking people, hey, what's going on? What environment can I put myself into? And you're, like you said, that you're not entitled to be there, but it is something to kind of remember. Why did you choose the role? What was it that it was exciting? And then what do you want to take on to your next role?
Yeah, that's great. Just check yourself, right? Why did I come here? And if that why, we talk about why a lot. If that why still isn't strong enough to keep you there, that's what you got to start to question, right? And so, thank you, Ryan. That's great advice.
Yeah, if the why's not there, it's just time to kind of start looking elsewhere. And that's the beauty. That's the beautiful part of being able to self-explore and do that self-reflection, to really just say, all right, what's next?
Yes. Wonderful. So, anybody else have any great tips you've received lately that you would like to share with others who are kind of going through transitions, major milestones, thinking about making career changes? Anything you would like to share that you've taken away?
I'll say one thing. I say just get started. I think I talked about how, for me personally, let fear paralyzed me a little bit. And I found, if I'm just okay, here are my baby steps. I'm curious about this. I'll go on LinkedIn Learning and I'll take a course, or I will do this one little piece. I'll talk to one person. Anything you do just to get yourself started. And then you find it gets a lot easier and you get excited. And then if you do find something that sparks your motivation and gets you excited to do it, hold on to that and just keep chasing that line down. So I would say just take little baby steps in what gets you excited and moving forward.
That's great. Yeah, just prove to yourself that you can, right? Those steps forward are steps forward. So that's great. Anyone else?
I think just to echo Alex.
Yeah.
It seems daunting when the final destination is so far away, but you're only that small step is still going to get you a little bit closer. And so, like Alex said, it's just start, but also map out what needs to happen so that every day you can make a little bit of progress. And that's where I think a lot of, when I've watched others be successful, and when I'm trying to emulate that as I prepare for this new transition, it's what can I do today? And even if it's something very small, it's even in planning a wedding, it's the same thing. It's what small task can I accomplish today? Because it's one less that I'll have to do between now and March. And that makes me feel a little bit better so that I can build that confidence continuously.
That's great. Well, thank you, Evan.
Yeah.
That's great. Ryan?
Yeah, I was gonna say or mention it's just like if you're climbing a mountain, you know that there's a top, there's an end goal, and you got to keep chugging away. Sometimes you might get some bad weather. The next your pack gets wet, or you're running low on water. You didn't pack enough food. So it's really just like you got to keep constantly going to reach that top. And I like to use the metaphor of hiking because it's just evident to life.
Yeah.
So just keep going away.
I use that one too a lot, Ryan. I think it's a great one. I use it for helping organizations plan as well. So we'll talk about that sometime, you and I.
I have one more thing.
Yeah, go ahead.
If you don't mind. So something that's really helped me, because like I said, when it's a period of change, a lot of fears come up, a lot of insecurities. Build your support network and talk about it. Writing it down is good, but also speaking it into existence and knowing who are your biggest cheerleaders and who can give you feedback. For me, it's my husband and my mom and Evan and my other class who, on days where I'm just feeling down, and then I get feedback and we're discussing this, or just I'm opening up about how I'm feeling, it goes a long way to getting yourself out of your head, because I think that's what we're all fall too much into. So know who your people are, share where you are in your journey, and just allow them to help you along on that journey.
Yes, that's so important, especially these days when we could easily become very disconnected. That's great guidance, just to remind yourself there are people there that care about you, that will help you, that will lend a helping hand, that are the Evans of the world, that will validate you and see the best in you. You want to make sure you reach out to those people and keep them in your inner circle, and don't walk away from them, because they'll be there through thick and thin. I'm really proud of all of you and just getting to know you. And so I know I've put you through a lot of reflection and deep thoughts the last few months that we've known each other, and you've all embraced it and really dug in. And to see that you're coming through this time in your life knowing that you are unique, special, and different, and that you have a unique, special, and different to guide you through wherever you decide to go, that excites me. And I think it's going to take you a really long way. So I hope no matter what careers you step into, you remember who you are, and you be yourself, and you be proud of that. So I'm really thankful for the opportunity to get to know all of you and to see you grow, just even in this short amount of time that we've known each other. And I'd love just to hear, what are you looking forward to as we close up the show today? Anybody got something exciting going on that you're looking forward to in the future?
I think my fiance would be mad if I didn't. Go Ryan.
Oh no, go right ahead.
I say Kevin would be pretty upset if I said I wasn't looking forward to that wedding. So, which I am. It's not just that he wants me to be. I'm very excited for that. I think that this end of the MBA is going to be a transitional year, but it's all such good transition. And so live in the scary, but embrace it. And that's where I'm at. It's exciting.
That's right.
Yeah, I think this whole process, instead of looking at the end of this program and transitioning in my career as something to be dreading, I'm like, wait, no, this could be the most exciting point of my life. Just come on, apply some. I know my USD, I'm gaining my confidence, and it could be the best. The next year could be the best show. I'm just very hopeful and excited about everything right now.
That's great. Turn that fear into excitement. That's fantastic.
It's just changing your mindset. We all have the ability to do it.
We do. That's the biggest thing to change. You don't have to change anything else if you change your mind. That's right. And Ryan?
Yeah, no, this is the building years. So these are the building blocks, and having that confidence that we're gaining from this class is exciting because it gets to pivot you, and it pivots you into the right way, into your area that you need to be in. So that's what I'm excited for.
Yes. Well, I'm excited to see all of those amazing milestones and moments that you're creating for yourselves. And I'm really happy I could be a part of just a small part of it, of these building block years that you're experiencing. And I want to thank you all for being on the show. I'm going to offer to anyone that watches this show, so you have to watch it to this point to hear me say this, if you are also at a really critical juncture in your life and trying to figure out what you want to do next, or get through a major milestone like grad school, or make a career change, reach out to me and I'll give you an hour's free of career coaching. You can do that at jenatcandfreestudio.com, but you have to say you watched this episode. So the first one to do that will get a free hour of coaching, and I'll help you if you're struggling to figure out what makes you unique, special, and different. I want to thank all of you for being on the show. I look forward to seeing you in class soon. And for anyone that's watching this on YouTube, you can come back and visit us every couple of weeks. This was a special episode this time. Otherwise, you can find us on candfreestudio.com. We're on Spotify, Amazon, Google, Apple Podcasts. We're everywhere, and we're all around the world. And I want to thank our guests today and look forward to seeing you soon.